Okay, welcome to another episode of the Maniverse podcast. I'm your host, Tom Traplin, and today we are talking with Alex Thor and Jonathan Adams. Alex is the Director of Operations at RPG Travel, and Jonathan is their resident gaming master. Both of these fine gentlemen were featured at the recent 2021 LGS Success Summit, and today we're going to explore what RPG Travel is, how it works, how you, dear listener, as a game store owner can work with them to offer your customers an unforgettable gaming experience that they will love, while making money and traveling to exciting locations at the same time. How's it going, guys? Thanks for
Going
coming on.
well. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I'm glad we could find a time to make this work, and we went through a few rescheduling instances, but all in good time. And I'm really happy to be having this conversation right now because I think this is very exciting stuff. Cool. Okay, so well, let's get started. Before we jump into the details of what's going on and what RPG Travel is and all the cool stuff that you guys are doing, let's just do a little bit of the background, some of the origin story. So walk us through, how did you guys start this business? Why did you get into this kind of an industry? What's happening? Let us know.
So basically, I think several years ago, right before COVID, Jonathan and I are friends. Our kids went to school together, and so on and so forth. And we were just kind of hanging out, having a beer, watching a football game of all things. And Jonathan, I've operated for 15 years, educational travel company that takes people all around the world. And Jonathan was like, "Hey, I play D&D. I've been playing since the '80s. Is there a way that we could play in castles and cool places thematic with the game?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds really cool." So that's where kind of the idea started. And then we started putting things together, and I was scoping out some locations internationally while I was on my other trips to see about what we could offer. And then right when we were about to launch that, COVID hit and the world kind of shut down. So it's been on pause for a bit. But we kind of relaunched, rebranded probably about 9 months ago, once vaccination rates were starting to go up, and everybody's getting vaccinated and conferences were opening back up, and we were getting ready for Origins and Gen Con and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it got started in a nutshell. Did I miss anything on that one, Jonathan?
No, I think that's right. Has been a beginning in the industry for people to have some experience in what they are, where they're playing and what they're playing. And so this was sort of a hybrid idea off of a couple of things that people had started to do in the gaming space. And Alex and I, like I said, we were just having a conversation over beers, and the idea came about. And I think we put together a pretty neat process for gamers and people in the industry to enjoy what they're playing, but do it in very iconic places.
Like I really like the idea of merging the RPG experience, right, of going to another world in a sense and living out some of your fantasy adventures and that sort of thing, and then combining it with real world exotic locations and cool places and that sort of thing. It's a really cool idea, and it's very interesting to see where it's going to go in the future. And hopefully, COVID cooperates and things open up in time. So how does it work? What exactly does it look like when somebody goes on a trip and that sort of thing?
So basically, we are a travel company for gamers, but also non-gamers in a sense. So typical travel company will take you on a vacation, let's say, and if you're going to Ireland, you're going to see all the sites that you would typically see in Ireland, like Cliffs of Moher and Christchurch Cathedral and Ring of Kerry and all that good stuff. But we would also allocate time, typically if we're doing like an RPG or something like that, 4 to 6 hours per day to play inside a castle or a cave or different types of thematic locations with the game. But that would also work for any type of tabletop game that has kind of a thematic theme to that type of atmosphere, or a card game or anything like that. And what we do is we basically put together the trip, all of the logistics, the hotels, the transportation, the guides, all the gaming venues, so they're ready to play. And we brand it. So we work with people like game store owners and other individuals that are manufacturing games, to brand a trip for them. And what that means is the owner or a staff member, if they're not able to travel or because they're busy or what have you, go on the trip for free. They get a percentage of all gross sales off of the trip. So they're making some money on the trip. They're going on the trip for free. And they're just kind of standing out from competition by doing an experiential type of travel. And so that's how it kind of works. We help them select a destination internationally or domestically, and we build the itinerary and the website around it, the marketing material, and there's very little energy that a game store owner has to put into this concept, which is what we got pushed, which is what people asked us a long time ago, because they'd say they're really busy already. They don't have time for something like this. So we take all the heavy lifting, and then also it's open for non-gamers as well. So spouses, friends, families, partner members, anybody that wants to go on the trip that's not a gamer while you're gaming, our tour guide takes them to do other cool stuff in and around that area.
And one of the things that we have really started to work on, the great thing about gaming and the venues that we're talking about is we can find a venue in the world just about anywhere that matches a setting or a scenario. And then the flip side of that is we can find a scenario or a setting that matches just about anywhere in the world. So if somebody has a desire to travel to a certain place, we can actually take that concept, build an itinerary around it, and then associate that with some sort of a gaming adventure. So we actually scratch several itches of that game store owner. They get to go to some place they've always maybe wanted to go, but do it in a way where, again, we're going to tie it to a game system, an adventure, and give them that full breadth of an experience that they can pass on to their customers, again, sort of setting them apart from the competitors.
Very cool. I like the idea of customization. So the process of somebody getting involved is that can they just be like, I just want to put something together. Can you do it for me? Or is it like, do they need this idea beforehand to be like, oh, I wanted to go to Egypt and I want something to be involving the pyramids and I want all of this? Like, how much of that back and forth are they responsible for?
Typically not a whole lot. Initially, within a 15-minute call, I have a series of questions that I'll ask. It would be like sending out a request for proposal or something like that. And I would go through all my questions of what size tables do you need? How many people will be playing at each table? What type of games are you playing? And then that allows me to go back and look at exactly, where we can go and see and doing all of that stuff. And I would suggest 2 or 3 locations. And then we would select one. I would put together the itinerary, send it back to them, say, here's a draft. And they would look through it. Typically, I was just talking to another game manufacturer the other day. We're doing a trip to them to the UK. I put together the draft itinerary after a 10-minute call. We sent that back. They emailed me back with some sticky notes on a PDF, and we had a follow-up phone call for 20 minutes, and the trip is ready to go. It's as easy as that. And they're not financially committed to anything. So that trip will run in fall of next year, but the deposit dates are not until the summer. So people don't need to worry about signing up yet or anything like that. But if we don't get enough people, which we want 20 people to go is our minimum typically, and 30 the max, then we just cancel the trip. Nobody's out any financial, commitment or anything like that. And, we just reboot and try again a year or 2 later, or see what went right or what went wrong with marketing or what have you. So that's basically how it kind of works. We try to streamline everything, do all the heavy lifting.
Awesome. Yeah, I like the fact that everything is you can basically get everything set up within like an hour. A little bit of a conversation back and forth, and you've got everything taken care of. That's excellent. So you mentioned that you do gamers and non-gamers. So what kind of game systems do you support? Does it matter? Like, is it just RPGs, or can you do like virtually any kind of gaming? What kind of setup do you got?
So, I mean, because as of right now, like Dungeons & Dragons 5e is one of the easiest systems for a non-player to jump into, and it's one of the most popular out there. So it's we call it the 800-pound gorilla, right? It's the one that everybody's playing. So most of the tours that we do, we recommend considering D&D as that centerpiece, but by no means is that what we have to do. There are certainly other RPGs, there are other rule systems, and again, as Alex was saying earlier, we have tours that we're creating for non-RPG games, card games, other types of, game store interested games, but again, thematically tied to where we're going. So, depending on the immersion that people are looking for and the game systems that they're interested in playing, we can handle just about anything.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Some of the tabletop games that are only take 1 to 2 hours to play, they don't need a 5-6 hour session as kind of an RPG might need. So that would limit the amount of total gaming hours for the week. Maybe it's 15 plus gaming hours for the week, whereas an RPG is going to be, a custom adventure campaign is going to be 25 to 35 hours for the week to get through that custom adventure that our team has built, Jonathan and the GMs have built. So, I had a game store owner the other day say, I want to do D&D for sure, but I know I have at least one table that are into Pathfinder. Can they play that? And absolutely. And then we'll customize something to go with that. So it's that, everything is very customized, and whatever they want, we'll just deliver, a private tour for what they want.
And, we have that team of GMs that are very experienced and able to create and craft adventures. But again, they have experience beyond 5e as well. So if we can bring our GM team to bear, or again, if the game store already has a team of GMs that they like and like working with, we absolutely can work with them as well, whether that's with our custom adventure or with something they've written or something they want to do. We're very flexible because of all of the experience and all of the locations that we can do and all of the team members that we have in place. So being able to work with either our team or their team to deliver that custom trip that they're looking for.
All right, so you'll find a solution one way or another to fit what they're hoping to achieve. One thing that my personal situation is I'm the gamer in the family. Obviously, my wife has no interest in gaming in particular, although she dabbles a little bit. But if we were going to go on a trip, she would be very interested in seeing the sights and doing the usual travel vacationer sort of thing. So to get her to be interested in this kind of a trip, and I'm sure I'm not the only gamer focused person who's like, oh, sounds great, but like I've got a family or I've got somebody else, significant other who's like, this is not my thing. So what kinds of I want to say entertainment, what kind of activities, what kinds of value do they get, the non-gamer spouses and those people? What do they get out of coming on this kind of a trip?
So what I would say, and if we're going to use Ireland as a staple, is, everybody on the trip, gamer and non-gamers, are going to see those iconic sites that you would want to see in a country like Ireland, like Cliffs of Moher and so on and so forth. But let's say while they're gaming in a castle near Galway, we will do a culinary seafood experience where you spend 3-4 hours with a chef and you cook and make your own food. And, Galway is known for its oysters and seafood and all of that. And we would do like a private style venue. So where you're having like a culinary session experience, drinking wine and having a good time. The gamers are doing this other venue. They're playing games. But this could be anything from that to our guide taking you to a, out a country road to a nice little village where it's a boutique and it's got all these little shops and you can do some shopping, or you can add in a spa visit or anything like that. So each country is a little bit different on where we're gaming and what locations we can add, but it's stuff like that where it'd be not typically where you'd see the masses of tourists. We would take people to specialized non-gamer style things like I just mentioned. Things like that.
And that's something that we do build in for each of those gaming sessions. Depending on how the trip breaks down, we may have an equal number of non-gamers playing with traveling with the gamers, or we may have a handful, but we have those broken out per gaming session specifically for those non-gaming travelers to get their experiences as well away from the tabletop.
And that's the kind of stuff that I would need, the kind of ammo you need to convince somebody to be like, okay, let's make this happen. It's not just playing around the table and fun for me. It's also fun for everybody who's involved.
And these are serious vacations. I mean, people plan typically 6-8 months or further out in advance for for their time away from work. And, going to Europe or, somewhere else overseas it's not something you typically do just at the drop of a hat. So it does require a little bit of planning, and we want to make sure that, we're catering to everybody that's coming with us. Obviously, we're focused on the games because that's kind of what we're talking about, but it's not realistic to expect everybody to want to play the games on the trip. So having those alternate excursions, I think, is something that we do that's just a little bit different from some of the other people that are talking about, gaming in places.
Excellent, excellent. And you mentioned your team of game masters, and I remember this was a bit of a subject we explored a little bit during the summit. Where do you find your game masters? Where do those people come from? How do you recruit these folks?
So, because I've been a player for so long and a game master since the early 80s, I started with, my personal network, people that I knew and trusted, and we kind of built from there. It's been maybe a year and a half or so in the process of building this team. And, we have reached out through connections and through other partners in the gaming community to find some really amazing GMs. Every one of them comes through our system. Every one of them is in our private organization. We do trainings and, practice sessions and those kinds of connections to us. So everybody is vetted. Everybody's a professional. We make sure that everybody is comfortable with running tables, again, in that professional manner. And so, we have GMs from lots of places around the country. We're based in Central Kentucky. So, obviously we have a little bit more of a concentration here and then sort of in our region. But as we continue to do our one shots, which we haven't talked about a whole lot, we continue to add more of these personal and professional connections, extending our DM team. I think right now we are at about 48 DMs in our group, and we cover pretty much from LA to the East Coast. We have somebody in lots of places, so it's been a lot of fun building that team. And again, every one of them is sort of personally vetted by me and a very tight team of DMs that I work with.
Awesome. Sounds like a pretty good job.
I mean, I can't complain.
I think I know the answer to this, but just in case somebody's wondering, you've mentioned RPGs, you've mentioned D&D, Pathfinder. Do you need, from the consumer perspective, somebody who's contemplating, I want to come on this kind of a trip, do they need experience in the game system? Do they need existing characters? What do they need to be prepared for the gaming sessions, I guess is a good way to frame it.
So the answer is almost nothing. So when you sign up for one of our adventures, we have a private Discord server that we bring all of the players into. Our GMs work with them to create their characters, to make sure they are, set up and ready to go. We did actually a little bit of a data collection not long ago to look at the players that have played with us over the last year or so, and about 32% of the players that we have played with had never played Dungeons and Dragons 5e before, which I thought was amazing. And then probably another 10% had not played 5e before. So we have a very, good mix of people with, some experience, a lot of experience, no experience. With our partners, so like we are partnered with D&D Beyond. We use their platform for all of our pre-campaign setups. We provide the account, the content, the dice when you show up. We have this really cool swag set for players. It has a dice tray and dice kit and all of the stuff that you need to play. So essentially you show up and play. If you want to create a character ahead of time with our team, we'll do that in that Discord channel, kind of that trip session 0. We also have pre-gens. If people don't want the effort, they wanted to sit down and play, we do that as well. So you can be as much in advance preparation as you want or as little, and we will allow that process to play out as the player wants to play.
Awesome. So you don't just take care of the people organizing it, you also take care of the people coming on the trip and the gamers, and you've got all the aspects covered.
Yeah, we have this little pre-travel kit that they'll get that has some of the cool stuff that they might need for one of the trips. We take care of the minis, and we take care of all the gaming accessories they're going to need, both from the table side and from the player side. We have some pretty cool partnerships with some pretty neat companies. Kraken Dice is our official dice sponsor, so all of the stuff they get is from Kraken, and they're amazing stuff. We have a partnership with Spider Mind Games. They have a really cool system called Level Up, which is we use on the tables to make sure that people have room to game and are comfortable doing. Again, like I said, D&D Beyond provides the gaming platform, the digital subscription, and all that. It's really a kind of a turnkey process for the player.
From their perspective, everything is taken care of. For the game store owners, I want to really hone in on what we can do for these people and how they can take advantage of what you guys are offering. So what does the owner say? There's a local game store owner who's listening to this and thinking, this sounds really cool. How do I get involved? What do I get out of doing this? Give them some of the details on, some of the benefits from them organizing a trip of their own.
Yes. So with the game store owner, and if they're interested in doing something like that, the number one thing to do is just to reach out to us via email or through Discord or what have you, and say, hey, I'm a game store owner in this area. I'm interested in doing this. Really not sure how to start or where I want to go or what games I want to play. And we'll just set up a time for just kind of a meet and greet and a call just to go over some of the items that I talked about a little bit earlier. So, what's popular with your customer base? What type of games are they playing? Are you doing gaming sessions at your store as well? Are you doing any tournaments, stuff like that? Just random stuff like that. So I can get an idea, and Jonathan can get an idea of kind of what it is that your customer base is looking for. And then from that, I can kind of suggest, if we go back to D&D 5e, maybe we concentrate, we're doing a really cool one right now in Romania with kind of like a Strahd style theme to it and such, and playing in Dracula's castle, Bran Castle. So maybe we would probably do something like that. I was talking to a game store owner the other day where, you had magic and Innistrad, and it would be cool to do a venue inside Bran Castle as like kind of a 2-3 day tournament inside the castle or something like that. So basically, the way it works is, we would have that initial conversation, then we would select some destinations. I would tell them, enlighten them if they haven't traveled to those countries or places before. I would say, well, these are the options you can do. These are the type of things you can see. I would suggest, if you want to keep, if we're worried about, certain budgets, we want to stick to certain places versus other places. Definitely the Irelands of the world versus the, Sweden, Norway of the world is going to be totally different pricing structure if you're going for a Viking theme or kind of a Celtic theme or something like that. So we talk about that, pricing, budgets, how we handle the airline tickets if people need to book those through our travel agent providers. We show them samples of the registration page, what that'll look like. And we really just try to make them feel comfortable that they can really pull this off, because we really put it all together as a package to where we can say, all right, this trip would cost X amount. Let's just say it's $3,000 and you get this percentage off of it, and you're going for free, and your airfare is included and your land portion is included. And we're going to handle all this adventure. You can work with Jonathan and the GMs as well to create a custom adventure. It doesn't matter. And then we just handle all those logistics. So we basically hand it over to a package with their branding all over it, and we can white label the trip. You don't even have to have RPG Travel on there. We don't really, doesn't mind us to just say, if it's Legendary Games in Chicago, Illinois, then it's Legendary Games Chicago, Illinois, putting this trip to Ireland, and these are the dates, this is the price, this is how you sign up. If you have questions about, various things like passports and all that, they all flow through us, so they don't have to flow through the game store owner, because the game store owner is already busy with other stuff. The last thing they need to know is, someone calling them about what type of attire do I wear? Do I need a visa to get there? All of that stuff that we as a travel organization handle. And basically, we handle all the funds that come in, all the payments for deposits and remaining balances. They're not going to have to deal with any of the accounting for that. At the very end, we just cut them a check or wire them the money that was allocated to them, and they go on a trip. So it's, hopefully I answer that. Is it easy as just having a call and a couple of follow-up calls, and within, like you say, I think an hour and a half, you're going to have a custom trip with your name all over it. So
Awesome. So, meat and potatoes kind of stuff. You mentioned that you needed like a 20-person minimum for some of these trips, 30-person maximum. Is that like universal across the board? If it's local, is it smaller? Like, how does that work?
Typically, a lot of the venues we're playing at are extremely historic, or it could be a cave, and you can't fit 50 or 100 people inside these locations. So our minimum baseline is 20 minimum, just to get the trip up and running. And with that, you're going to have about 4 tables. And we try to cap around 30 because 6 tables, you want to have a kind of a boutique, nice experience. After 30 individuals, it gets a little crowded for any vacation, because think about it. If we're on a 54 passenger bus, which we typically take a bus that has way more seats than the amount of passengers we're going to have, so everyone can kind of spread out, relax, move around the bus. You want to really cap it at around that 30 mark. That's kind of the sweet spot for getting the best rates and such as well, but also keeping it boutique. So that's kind of the numbers we look for: 20 minimum, 30 maximum, something like that. But each trip's a little bit different, but that's the going standard.
Okay. And the locations, obviously they can be exotic all across the world, but you also do semi-local, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We do, right now we're doing some one shots in the States, Cincinnati, Marengo Cave, which is in southern Indiana, just south of Indianapolis.
Just outside of Philly.
Just outside of Philly, Crystal Caves. So those are 3 of the one shots we're starting right now. The Cincinnati one will be like a 3-day, 2-night long weekend session where you'll play in some ancient beer tunnels that were built by German immigrants 200 years ago. And then obviously we have Crystal Caves up in Philly. It's 54 degrees year round in there. So when it's the dead of winter there, we can go in there and warm up. And so, and then Marengo Cave is the same. The temperature remains the same year round. So those are some of the one-shot experiences, but we're looking to do stuff in Texas, Seattle, Southern California, Colorado, New England, Canada, hopefully Quebec City, Montreal, once things they start to open up with COVID. And then internationally speaking, warm destinations, we have the Hawaii's, like a Chult theme in central Mexico, or Yucatan. There's my little guy walking in here. And European destinations, Africa, what have you. So all those type of places.
Cool. So from a game store owner's perspective, could they opt in to do a 1-day local or semi-local trip to organize that kind of thing? Or is there a trip minimum, a certain number of days, certain amount of distance or something like that?
Yeah, typically we will, if there's if there's a game store owner in Toronto, let's say, and they want to do a one shot, we typically say 15 minimum, 3 tables, 30 max, but we would need to find the location that can actually host them, put all the logistics together to where they're going to go out for the day. They're going to have 3 hours. Typically it'll be like you'll have a private tour of the venue, because there'll be some type of history with it. And then we'll have 3 hours of gaming, lunch, and then 3 hours of gaming. So it's a full day.
Okay. So flexible in all aspects of the trip. That's what I was kind of hoping to find out, coming at it from different variables. Like what would work for certain people if they're thinking, well, I'm not ready to commit to a large group going to Europe just yet, but I would be interested in doing something in America, because, well, the vast majority of the audience of this podcast is in North America. So I'm thinking that's probably what most people are kind of thinking about, at least at the moment. So, as the game store owner, what are their duties while they're actually on the trip? What are they responsible for?
Almost nothing.
Almost nothing. They're going to play games, have fun, and interact with their customers. Our tour guides are professionals, and they've been doing it a long time, and they know how every single ins and outs of any trip. So the thing about if there's something wrong with, I don't know, let's say there's no hot water in the shower for some reason, or something like that in the hotel, just something that would happen randomly in a hotel, they're not going to have to deal with that. We're going to handle all that stuff. If there's a thing with the restaurant or the time we're going to be there, there's nothing that they have to deal with. The tour guide is managing all of that behind the scenes. The game store owners are there to just have fun. As I was talking to one the other day, they basically said, "Can I just sightsee, play games, and drink wine?" And I said, "Absolutely." And they said, "Okay."
Excellent. That's a good pitch. You don't have to do anything. You just get to have fun and enjoy the fruits of your labor of putting this whole thing together. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the whole marketing of everything. So when a hypothetical store owner is thinking, this sounds great, I want to do some sort of a package, I want to go somewhere neat, somewhere interesting, somewhere across the world. How do I, I'm as this hypothetical store owner, how do I get people signed up for this? What's the best way for me to get my customers engaged, get them interested? How do I present it to them? What kind of things have you seen in that regard to really get these things off the ground?
And so that's where we will work with them directly to determine how they best communicate with their customers right now. We will create all of that marketing for them that they can push out through a variety of channels. Obviously, people are on social a lot, but they have, foot traffic in the store. They have connections of connections and other, people they know locally. And we will help them create those pieces, again, whether it be for social or physical media they want to hand to people and whatnot. We can work with them to communicate with their customers the way they best communicate.
So it really is a done for you kind of service. It sounds like pretty much every answer is like, don't worry, we'll handle all aspects of this trip. You just give us the seed of the idea and we'll figure out everything that you need to do to really make this happen.
Yeah, we try to make it pretty turnkey. The goal for us is to make it as easy for that owner of an LGS to enjoy and differentiate themselves without adding a lot of stress. One of the challenges of this type of thing is there are lots of tiny little details that come up all the time. And that's really why, Alex, with his years of experience, he handles that stuff very, very well. And I don't want to, curse you or anything, Alex, but, that's one of the things that, you do pretty well. And so, I hope we don't continue to have little things like that pop up, but we do. And by being able to make that more of a turnkey, take care of all those little details, it does free that store owner up, both pre-trip from the marketing side of things, and then on the trip, while things are going on. Again, we want to make it as turnkey for them as possible.
So store owners really have nothing to lose to give this a shot.
I mean, really not. The commitment doesn't happen until we get closer to the time of the trip. And so we usually know before we get to that deadline point, we have plenty of interest or we don't have enough interest. And, when that deadline comes up, if things aren't where we want them to be, it literally is just a matter of turning things off. We're only out a little bit of time that we, put into promoting this. And so when we get to that deadline point, we know we have enough touring, enough people going on the trip. We get those, payments in, everybody starts paying their deposits and the trip goes. So it's not like people are putting up all kinds of money up front for a trip that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I would just echo that. We know everyone is super busy and they have all kinds of things going on. I get that question a lot. I'm so busy. I'm also doing this local tournament here where I'm going to have 100 people and this, and I'm just trying to, but they're really interested in doing maybe, let's say, an international trip or something like that, 8 to 12 months out. And I just tell them, if you really want to try to do this, now is the time you would want to plan for a fall trip of 2022 or a summer, because people need to put that on their calendar. They need to talk with their spouse. If they have kids, who's going to take care of my kids? All of these other things that go along with going on a vacation like this, you're going to have to know well in advance. So we're talking to a lot of people now who want to book for summer and fall of next year because they want to do a European destination, which is when you want to go is usually spring, summer, and fall, not in the dead of winter unless you're going to the south of Spain or something. So the key is to get in early, and honestly, within an hour back and forth, we will probably have everything ready for you to go, and there's no financial commitment at all until the deposit date comes up. And if we don't have enough, like Jonathan says, we just turn it off. We'll cancel the reservations we have with bus companies and tour guides and hotels and restaurants and all that stuff that's locked in. And then we'll just reboot and see what happens maybe in the future.
Cool. So I guess that leads us into another probably very common thought that people are having right now, being the world being as it is. So what does, like you mentioned that there's no costs incurred. If it's prior to the deposit date, it's just not happening. Okay. Like not enough people signed up. Cool. No loss. What what happens in the event, something COVID spikes in the location that you were hoping to travel to, and they've locked the borders down, no air travel, or something like that. Something prevents this event, this trip from going down.
Come on, Tom. When has
what
that
happens
ever
then?
happened? When has that
No,
ever
it's
happened,
never
right?
happened. Never going to happen. No one don't need to worry about that at all. But if somebody's like, "Oh, I have this idea. Like, well, this is something I'm concerned about." What happens in that kind of scenario?
Yeah. So basically, with that is, if the border's locked down, that's a whole different situation. Everyone, you're getting refunded and things like that because there's no flights and such. That's going to be. I'm not going to say easy. It's going to be refundable because a lot of times what we do or will require or suggest is to get travel insurance. Because if you have travel insurance, then you're covered. Now, it's not going to cost fear of COVID. So, for example, if I want to go to Costa Rica today on a trip, it's open to everybody. And if the numbers spike and your trip's about to leave and you decide, I'm nervous about COVID, then travel insurance will not cover you there. So I think most people will know deposit wise, which is typically 3 months, 4 months prior to your trip anyways. Okay, I can see kind of where COVID's going. I'm vaccinated because we're requiring all vaccinations on all of our trips anyways, to make everyone feel more comfortable and kind of make that decision as to, yes, I'm going to go, or no, I'm going to postpone. Maybe I'll try it again in 2023 or something like that. But those last minute, the biggest thing is just travel insurance. Travel insurance will cover a lot of those expenses if stuff decides to shut down and all of those type of things happen. Or something else happens. I mean, what if you fall, you break your arm, now you can't go? Travel insurance is going to cover stuff like that. So it's not just COVID, but any number of things, someone gets sick in your family or what have you, you might have to stay back. So there's a whole lot of things that could happen.
Yeah, I guess it's not just a global pandemic that could put a damper on your trip. It could also just be I stumbled down the stairs and I broke my foot or something like that. No, I can't go.
Yeah, that still happens every day.
Unfortunately.
Sadly.
Ironically, that actually happened. Well, minus the broken foot, that actually happened to me a couple of days ago where I slipped down the stairs and whacked my butt off the wooden staircase. Dang, slippery new socks. But yeah, so I guess I had this question listed about how, somebody's thinking about this and it sounds really good. They're too busy. But I think we've answered that really thoroughly, that if somebody's feeling like they're too busy, there's no reason not to at least just reach out and have the conversation because you'll take care of everything.
Absolutely. And if they don't want to travel, there is someone on their staff that will likely travel. And if there is no one on their staff that wants to travel, that's okay as well, because our team and our staff will still brand it as their game or their store and run the trip as if it's their trip. It is their trip, but they're just maybe not on site or on location because they're too busy and they got other things going on. So there's definitely store owners that definitely say, I'm all game, but me and none of my staff have time to do the trip, but you guys can run it and I'll take the profits on top of that we decide to come to a conclusion with.
Excellent. That's a very good added point, that you don't even need to go on this trip. Like you don't have to be there to manage it. You can go there to enjoy it, but if that's not not an option for you, don't worry. The RPG travel guys will have you covered. And again, I think it really plays into the theme of taking care of everything and making it a real turnkey kind of travel solution.
Yeah, we've even had people will send us T-shirts to wear their T-shirts. That's fine. We'll wear their T-shirts. We're branded as we are a representative of your group, so we will make sure it's all good, and we'll take photos and stuff like that, so they can push stuff on social media to say, "Hey, look at what we're doing," and even though they're still just taking care of the business back home.
Awesome. So before we wrap things up, do you have any quick tips for game store owners who want to make their custom branded experience a real success?
I would say, if it's something that you feel like you're interested in, and, just like we alluded to prior, you're really not going to lose anything for trying. I mean, I think just throwing it out there, I don't know how many trips I've organized over the years where someone has said, I have no idea. They just talked to their staff or their group and they've said, hey, I'm thinking about going to France to do this tour. And, we'll go to the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre and this, that, and whatever. But, we'll play games and do stuff like that or what have you. who's interested in doing that? You just see how many hands go up in the room. Like, you'll know within your small group, even if you're playing, an RPG every Tuesday night at your store, maybe, you could bring it up then. Like, hey, we're thinking about doing this tour, and we could do a little one pager for you. It says, go into this place and these dates. Would you be interested? And if you have a overwhelming majority of the hands in the air go up, you probably have the interest. So it's worth just trying out to see if it can work. And I guarantee every time once you do one trip, everyone's going to have an awesome time. They're all going to say, where are we going next? Totally cool. This is awesome. And then we just, talk about the next trip for next year or 2 years later, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter.
Cool. Did you have any thoughts on that one, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, I think that's accurate in that once people see and experience this process, it really becomes about when is the next thing. And so we have found that in talking. So when we do one of our experiences, we have a post-experience survey that we send out just to make sure, what do we do right? What do we do wrong? What can we do better? Those kinds of things. Almost everyone that takes that comes back with, that was awesome. And, this is what I liked about it. But when is the next one? When can I sign up for the next event? And so, that will absolutely translate into that LGS concept. They do, a trip in 2022. They're going to have not only the people that went on that trip in 2022, but all the other people they're talking to clamoring to find out, where are you going in 2023 now? What's next? And so it becomes that sort of annual process that you now offer this as part of your differentiation to your customer base.
I like that. Unique service propositions. Very important. And the idea of having this like flagpole event once a year where you guys, you and your customers or your community kind of like organizes and goes and does this crazy exotic experience, this, ultimate gaming kind of bonanza, in a castle or something like that. That sounds like something that you could really sell to somebody. And like you said, once you kind of have that first trip down, under your belt and it went really well and they saw how cool it was, then you've got like you probably have an unpaid mobile marketing team who's going to go and tell all their friends about how great this trip was and how, they should come to the next one. And probably I would imagine the first one's probably like, you got to get over that initial hurdle of getting people signed up and excited and getting it going. And then number 2, number 3, number 4, just like they just happen almost automatically because people are ready to roll once you have that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone that's done a first time trip, once you get over that initial hurdle and they actually go on the trip or get the reviews afterwards, they're amazed because it's so turnkey. Everything's thought of. You just enjoy yourself and you're on vacation and you're playing games and you're having a good time. So you don't have to think about all the other little stuff going on in the background.
So to me, this sounds like the perfect way for a game store owner to not only go on vacation, which is hard enough to do in the first place, but also like make some money, do something fantastic for their community that they really love, and set their store apart all at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sounds pretty awesome to me. So hopefully people are thinking, that sounds cool. How do I get connected with you guys? What do they do? Somebody's listening. Where can they go to get this process started?
Yeah. So rpgtravel.com is the website. It's great. It has the connection that you get to us through via phone, email, or through Discord. Those are 3 options. Or you can just send us through our contact form there and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. I'm interested in maybe talking to you. And there's no rush. I mean, it's not like we have to get to it right now. It can be a week, 2 weeks, a month from now, whatever you think, when you have some time. And then if we just kick back at, when are you available? Give me a few dates, times that you're available, and I'll make sure it works. And then I'll put it on my calendar. It's kind of how it works. And then we'll have that initial conversation and kind of go from there.
Okay, well, I'll make sure those links are in the show notes so people can find them easily enough and just get this thing started so that they can start planning their trip for 2022 or 2023 or sometime in the near future, hopefully. They'll be able to figure that out. So any closing thoughts?
I just encourage people to reach out. I think that you are going to see more and more people clamoring for these types of experiences. We've all been, locked down for a year and a half, 2 years almost now. And, we're seeing the desire to leave the basement And this is a fantastic way to get those people into your orbit doing the things they want to do. And again, differentiation is the key. Moving away from those commodity pieces and making sure that you can, service and repeat business and get people into this, unique proposition is only going to benefit an LGS trying to, stand out from their competitors. And so again, I encourage them to reach out and let us show you how easy it is.
Perfectly said, Jonathan. Thank you.
It's exactly what I was thinking. That is a fantastic place to close this podcast down. Thank you guys for coming on the show and telling us all about RPG travel. I think this was very interesting and hopefully very educational and intriguing to people who are listening right now. And hopefully get some exciting things planned for the near future.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to everybody again next time.